Good evening. Have you ever lost something and looking for it, you turn your entire house upside down? And then you realize that what you were looking for was right in front of your eyes. It's ironic that in the rush of worry and concern, we can miss what is right in front of our eyes. Deuteronomy 30, our first reading, reminds us that the commandments of the Lord are very close to us, not even in front of our eyes, but within, inside the heart. For this command that I am enjoying on you today is not too mysterious and remote for you. It's not up in the sky, it's not in the sea, but instead is something that is very near to you, already in your mouths and in your hearts. You only have to carry it out. Sometimes we may think that in order to please God, we have to do the extraordinary. And of course, there are some people that are called to do that. But for most of us, His commandments are already within our hearts. His commandments are not unattainable. They are not beyond our reach. We just have to carry them out. In Luke chapter 10, Jesus asks the million-dollar question: which of these three, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? And the answer of the scholar of the law was the right one, the one who treated him with mercy. So Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." The scholar of the law may have spent years preparing to get his degree, but anyone with common sense could have given the same answer. The one who treats others with mercy, indeed, is a good neighbor. Normally, we recognize this parable as the Good Samaritan. Technically, it should be called the Good Neighbor, because the question of Jesus to the scholar of the law is quite clear. Who was a good neighbor to the man that was robbed and was left wounded on the side of the road? And the one who was a good neighbor to him happened to be a Samaritan. The other two did not act as good neighbors. The word for neighbor in Greek is plesion. And plesion means behaving as a member of the group, or a good member of the tribe, or in simple language, a good brother. Being attentive to the one who is in front of you and not bypass, that is being a good neighbor. And the one who actually did something, the one who was a good neighbor, happened to be a Samaritan. Sometimes we think that in order to be a good Samaritan, we have to go out of our way, though some people may be called to do that. But for most of us, the one beaten on the side of the roads of our lives are in front of us, right in front of our eyes. They could be our closest friends, could be members of our family. They could even live within our own house, maybe bruised and beaten by sadness, who knows? The Lord invites us to treat them with mercy. There are several things that we can learn from the good neighbor who happened to be a Samaritan. He was moved with compassion. That's the inner movement of the heart. He approached the victim. That's the next step, because the temptation is not to get involved, not to approach. And then he poured oil and wine over his wounds and bandaged them. And I will say more about that in a minute. He lifted him on his own animal and took him to an inn and cared for him. He takes ownership of this particular situation. That's what being a good neighbor is. And then he took out 2 silver coins. He even spends his own money to take care of this person, to make a difference in this man's life. But I cannot avoid the image of pouring oil and wine over the wounds of the man. Of course, from the spiritual perspective, I can think of the sacraments of the church, through which Christ confers grace, the oil of healing and the wine that becomes the blood of Christ. But even from the most human aspect, let me ask you, what happens when you take a gauze that is saturated with alcohol and you touch the wound of a person with that. It's gonna hurt. The pain will only get worse in order to get better. It's the law of healing. When we try to be good neighbors to the wounded that are right in front of us, sometimes we think that our help should be only soothing and comforting, and that's why we avoid confrontation. But sometimes our help will make their pain increase before it gets better. Like the oil and the wine poured onto a wound, like a gauze saturated with alcohol touches an open wound, it will hurt. That's what a good neighbor does. It may be in the form of a challenge. It may be by saying no to their addictive behaviors. It may be by not cooperating with their dysfunctional lives. It will hurt. But that is the only path to true healing. Remember, the man left on the side of the road was dying. He was half dead. This was the Samaritan's field hospital, like Pope Francis would refer to the church. Being a good neighbor, being a good Samaritan, will make them feel pain before things get better. If we really want to get to the root of the problem, the wounds have to be treated with oil and wine. And who is my neighbor? They could be our closest friends, members of our own family. They could even live within our own house. The Lord challenges us to treat them with mercy, His kind of mercy. The Lord is not simply saying, be nice to your neighbor. He commands us to treat them with mercy. So may the Lord open our hearts so that we could find within our hearts His commandments. And may the Lord also open our eyes so that we could see the neighbors that the Lord gave us who are right in front of our eyes. Amen.